All members of my family have graduated from college.
However, David, who is Bob's brother, only finished middle school, I hear. Being a middle school graduate is a disgrace to our family. I want to keep my interactions with Mr. David to a minimum. Bob graduated from the National Defense Academy and is a promising officer in the self-defense forces. In contrast, I only finished middle school. I guess they don't want me, a middle school graduate, to start acting like a relative just because Bob is becoming their son-in-law. I wish they wouldn't talk about such things when holding the microphone at a wedding. That's when it happened.
Bob, the younger brother, stood up from the groom's seat and went over to his father-in-law's side, taking the microphone from him.
Ryan, please stop insulting my brother. Don't you know who he really is? What do you mean by who he really is? What's going on?
You really don't know anything, Ryan? I'll announce it here today. Actually, my brother is...
The whole venue held its breath. My name is David Smith. I'm a 35-year-old working in civil engineering and construction. Now I lead a settled life, but my past has been full of ups and downs. First, when I was 7, my parents divorced, and I stayed with my dad along with my 2-year-old brother Bob. Being a kid, I wondered why we didn't go with our mom, but it turned out her affair was the reason for the divorce. Since then, all her photos were thrown away, and now I can't even remember her face. Things would have been less problematic if my dad had been strong, but he was completely broken by mom's betrayal. Every day, to forget his sorrow, he started going to casinos, hardly working at all. He even began accumulating debts. Ever since we were aware, my brother and I never experienced a full meal.
Bob would often say, "I wish I could have a full meal."
That's why I wanted to start working early. Against my teacher's advice, I began working right after graduating middle school. But there weren't many places willing to hire a 15-year-old boy with no skills. My only pride was my physical strength, so thanks to my teacher's arrangements, I joined a construction company called North Village Construction as an apprentice carpenter. Joining there was going to change my life significantly. No matter how much I earned, it was evident that my father would spend it on gambling. When I consulted with Tom Johns, the president of North Village Construction, he invited me saying, "Why don't you and your brother come to live at my place?" It's not exactly taking you in, but living in a different place, basically.
It's not exactly taking you in, but living in a different place means you won't have your money taken from your wallet, Tom said.
I decided to take Tom's offer and move to the second floor of North Village Construction's office with Bob, starting our life cooking for ourselves. A life that started at 10 and 15 years old, like an adventure. Maybe it's because of those times that Bob and I still get along so well today. Also, the work environment was really good. The senior carpenters seemed rough at first glance, but lived in a world where even a millimeter of error isn't tolerated. During work, I was constantly yelled at, but even in those shouts, I could feel their care. I truly think I chose a good workplace. Eventually, my father disappeared, burdened with debts. I didn't care much about where or how he was, but I filed a missing person report just for formality's sake, and that's how things are now. As I worked tirelessly, the years went by. When Bob was 17, he confided in me his desire to attend the National Defense Academy.
Japan has many disasters, right? Helping disaster victims is a major duty of a self-defense officer.
Plus, if I go to the National Defense Academy, I won't be a burden to you. They provide salaries and bonuses too. Indeed, the role of the self-defense forces in reconstruction during disasters is significant. However, the National Defense Academy is primarily a place for training senior defense officers. Isn't it more the job of the lower ranks to be active in disaster relief? Also, considering the recent international situation, I feel a great deal of anxiety.
If you're thinking of the National Defense Academy just for the money, I'm against it.
There's a chance you could be sent to dangerous countries. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand. Even if we're deployed overseas, our mission is solely humanitarian aid. I want to help people in need.
I couldn't find any more words to persuade Bob. Bob, who studied hard, finally passed the entrance exam to the National Defense Academy. With Bob moving into the dormitory, our life together as two brothers comes to an end. I'm overwhelmed by a strange sense of emptiness, and for a while I couldn't focus on anything. My life up to now has been largely for the sake of my younger brother Bob. With Bob gone, there's a gaping hole in my heart. The one who filled that void was Mary Johns, 3 years younger than me. Mary is the daughter of Tom, raised among carpenters since she was a child. She wanted to be a carpenter, despite being a woman, causing quite a dilemma for Tom. When I first started working at John's Construction, Mary was only 12 years old, but from the first time we met I felt something faithful about her. It's a strange story, but I had a vague feeling that I would be getting married to Mary in the future. Mary must have been happy that someone close to her age like me had joined the company.
I've decided. When I grow up, I'm gonna marry David. You guys take good care of him. I won't forgive you if you let him quit.
At that time, none of the other carpenters paid much attention to it. I was right in the middle of adolescence, so it was embarrassingly unbearable when Mary loudly declared our relationship. But Mary would look straight at me. Even though I was aware of Mary's gaze, I made sure not to meet her eyes deliberately. The catalyst for Mary and me getting close was Bob's advancement in school. I had been so focused on Bob that I hadn't noticed anyone else, but then Mary came into my view, straight and clear. From then on, my days were filled with following Mary with my eyes. Around the time Mary was about to graduate from college, Tom brought up a conversation.
So, when are you two getting married? If you wait too long, you might miss your chance.
Am I really a good match for Mary? She's a college grad, and I'm just a middle school dropout. Aren't we mismatched?
That's not a problem. The real issue is your feelings.
Does that mean Mary's feelings are already decided? As a man, I need to make a firm decision here. I'm going to propose to Mary. Mary, crying, complained, "You're late." And so Mary and I decided to get married, but I was a bit concerned about the issue of last names. Mary is the only daughter of the Johns family, and we don't have reliable parents to depend on. So it seemed natural for me to become part of the Johns family, taking the name David Johns. But when I discussed it with Tom, he firmly denied it.
Your marriage to Mary has nothing to do with the Johns family. Just because you're Mary's husband doesn't mean you'll inherit John's Construction. I'll decide who my successor is.
I thought Tom's words were reasonable, and I wasn't disappointed. In fact, I felt relieved and happily went ahead with the wedding, focused on making Mary happy. It's almost been 10 years since Mary and I got married. I've been with John's Construction since I was 15, and it's almost been 20 years now. Bob graduated from the National Defense Academy and is now enlisted in the Ground Self-Defense Force. He has been promoted as an officer, and now at 30, he has risen to the rank of second lieutenant, which would be equivalent to a captain in the old military system. I'm not very familiar with military ranks, but I'm proud of Bob's progress, as it has been my pride and joy. Though we only meet a few times a year due to his busy schedule, I'm happy to see him succeeding. However, I can't fully celebrate Bob's promotion to the Self-Defense Force. In fact, my father-in-law Tom is involved in activities supporting the preservation of Article 9 of the Constitution and is critical of the Self-Defense Force. He never says anything directly to me, but he's clearly uneasy about the unstable world situation and the government spending on military arms. I respect Tom while discreetly keeping in touch with Bob. One day, I got a call from Bob telling me he had decided to get married. His fiance's name is Emma White, a 28-year-old office worker. They met through his boss's introduction and continued dating as they got along well, leading to their decision to tie the knot. "I really want you to attend the wedding. We don't have many relatives, so if possible, I'd like your wife to come too." It's a happy occasion, of course, we'll be there. I wholeheartedly celebrated Bob's marriage. When I told Mary, she of course said we would attend. Emma's father is a city councilman, currently involved in a major development project planned by the city. This should make for even more common ground to talk about. Emma's mother passed away due to illness when Emma was only 5, and being an only child, she was adored. Bob is also tightening his resolve, knowing he must make her happy. We had talked about having a family meet-up before the wedding, but neither of us could find the time, so it ended up being on the wedding day, itself. The ceremony was successfully conducted in front of a shrine, and the reception started in the afternoon. Mary and I went to greet the bride's family, but I was concerned about the lukewarm responses. I had been nervous about a crowd of Defense Force members, but there were more men in regular formal attire than I expected. Ryan didn't appear until the reception had already started. As 3 men in Defense Force ceremonial uniforms played the trumpet, the bride and groom made their entrance. The host, microphone in hand, solemnly proceeded with the festivities. Suddenly, in the middle of the chief guest's speech, the door opened and a balding, portly man strode in.
Finally, Emma's father, who is also a city councilman, has arrived.
"Let's end my speech here and invite her father to say a few words," the host announced. Applause erupted from the audience, and Ryan accepted the microphone with an air of expectation. What Ryan said first left me in utter shock. Ryan, holding the microphone, began with a lengthy self-introduction and his achievements in the city council. Then he said something outrageous.
All our family members are college graduates.
"But David, Bob's brother, is just a middle school dropout. A dropout is a disgrace to our family. I prefer to keep my interactions with Mr. David to a minimum. So, because Bob is becoming his son-in-law, he finds it objectionable that his middle school dropout brother-in-law would be around." There was no need to bring up such a topic while holding a microphone at a wedding.
What is he thinking? There are all kinds of people here. Does he think this is his political fundraising party?
Calm down, just ignore him. That's the best response.
That's not acceptable. This is not only an insult to us, but also to Bob. He's ruining a special wedding.
As Mary was about to confront Ryan, I stood up and tried desperately to stop her.
The family meetup didn't happen because of him. He kept saying he was too busy to meet us.
We don't know that for sure. Just sit down, please.
That's when it happened. Bob stood up from the groom's seat, walked over to his father-in-law, and took the microphone.
Ryan, please stop insulting my brother. Don't you know who he really is? Ryan, please stop insulting my brother.
What? His true identity? What are you talking about, Bob?
Standing straight next to his father-in-law, Yoda began to explain.
I apologize for the disturbance.
After finishing middle school, my brother joined a construction company. Overcoming tough days, he is now the president of John's Construction, considered the best in the city.
John's Construction? But your brother's last name is Smith.
If he became the son-in-law of John's Construction's daughter, he should have taken the John's name.
The name doesn't matter.
One can take over John's Construction without inheriting the name. That's the proof of my brother's greatness. The room buzzed with whispers, and Ryan's face turned pale.
Ryan, you're currently focusing on the city's development project, right?
The person leading that project is my brother David. People in high positions say whatever they want, but do you understand the struggles of those actually on the ground?
Of course, that's obvious.
Is it though? It doesn't seem so to me.
If my marriage to Emma means even the slightest insult to my brother, I'd rather consider this marriage null and void.
You had finally sat down, clapped towards Bob.
Ever since she was 12, Mary has never tolerated anyone insulting me. In a sense, she's been devoted to me all along.
You're amazing. Keep going. We're embarrassed to even be related to such a bald man. With a wry smile continued. I don't know how important a city councilman is, but I don't know anyone more admirable than my brother.
With our father missing, he's the only family I have. Now I want to ask Emma, who has just become my wife. In her bridal gown, looking utterly bewildered, stood up and walked quietly to Bob's side.
Emma, you became my wife in the ceremony earlier, but we haven't officially registered our marriage yet. If it means breaking ties, will you still come with me?
Bob handed the microphone to Emma. I held my breath in anticipation. Answered energetically. Of course I'll follow you. My father often insults others. It's caused friends to cut ties with us before. I've always been hurt because my father is like that. Saying this, Emma covered her face with her white-gloved hands and started crying.
Took the microphone back and gently stroked Emma's shoulder. Thank you, Emma. I know we'll face many challenges ahead, but together we can overcome them. Let's do it together.
Yes.
Clapped enthusiastically.
Many of the guests were associated with Ryan, but hesitant applause began to sound sporadically. The applause gradually spread throughout the venue. I joined in, clapping for Bob and Emma. These two will surely face and overcome any challenges that come their way in the future.
Whispered to me softly. Despite everything, it turned out to be the best wedding, didn't it? Look at their happy faces.
Yeah, you're right. The host will have a tough time now, but it's not every day you attend a reception like this.
Seeing that Mary had calmed down, we both sat back down. Relieved, I returned to my seat. Just then, a man sitting at the table in front raised his hand.
Bob Will said, "I'd like to say something too, if I may."
My name is Shijiro Travis, and like Councilman Ryan White, I am a city councilman. Please, come forward, Bob invited. Travis slowly stood up and walked towards the stage where Bob and Emma were. After receiving the microphone, Travis first expressed his congratulations on Bob and Emma's marriage. Then he turned towards Ryan's seat and began to speak quietly.
Actually, I too dropped out of middle school and entered the workforce early.
That's why I totally get how the groom's older brother David feels. In a society like the US, where educational background is crucial, those of us without even a high school diploma face limited job opportunities. I had to let go of many dreams, you know what I mean? I looked up at Travis and nodded emphatically. Travis went on.
I had to give up on a lot of dreams too. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough, I just didn't have the money.
Believing that nothing was possible without money, I worked solely to earn a buck, but that didn't bring me happiness. Travis cleared his throat softly, calming the emotional turmoil he must have been feeling.
I envied others and resented myself for not being born into a wealthy family.
Then I got involved in volunteering, and for the first time I felt the joy of living. That desire to do something for others led me to become a politician. As Travis spoke at length, Ryan, apparently frustrated, raised his voice.
What are you trying to say?
Essentially, it's the mission of a city council member to act as the hands and feet of the citizens.
Did you really come here just to criticize the groom's brother, a fellow citizen, as a disgrace to the family? The venue gradually became noisy. Not everyone related to Ryan harbors goodwill towards him. In fact, those who are more closely associated with Ryan are likely more aware of his unpleasant character. Voices began to rise from all around, criticizing Ryan.
Didn't Councilman White skip his own daughter's wedding? At the reception?
He probably just wanted to greet those who could benefit him.
So what if the groom's brother dropped out of middle school?
If that's a family disgrace, then Councilman White is a disgrace to our city. That's right, that's right. Some encouraged, while others rushed up to Ryan to vent their long-held grievances, turning the wedding reception into chaos. Ryan fled the venue as if escaping. Two men who appeared to be his close aides chased after him. Coward, running away. Jeers were hurled at him from all around.
Bob once again takes the mic and addresses the remaining guests. I'm truly sorry for the commotion.
Those who are upset are welcome to leave. If you still wish to celebrate with us, we'll continue the wedding as planned. So please enjoy.
Bob hands the mic back to the MC and returns to the groom's seat.
The MC, skilled in handling such situations, proceeds with the ceremony as if nothing happened. There were only me and Mary on the groom's side of the family, so I was worried about an awkward atmosphere. But there were no issues. Due to the uproar at the beginning of the reception, everyone's spirits were high, and lively discussions about the city's future buzzed at various tables. People came to our table with drinks in hand, offering toasts.
Your hands hold the future of this city, so make it a wonderful place, okay? A high school dropout and now a CEO? That's incredible, buddy.
Standing at the forefront of urban planning and shaping a new city, you've got a huge responsibility. Each time I bowed deeply and put on a smile. Despite wanting to keep a low profile, I ended up being asked to give a speech at the end.
I promise to create a city where everyone can enjoy themselves. I appreciate your support.
Including Bob and Emma, the whole room erupted in applause. It turned out to be an unusual wedding, but it became an unforgettable one. That's for sure. Bob and Emma's wedding somehow concluded without further issues. However, that wasn't the end of the story. Someone who attended the reception wrote a letter to the editor in the newspaper. The names of the attendees were withheld, but the letter mentioned the city council member who scorned dropping out of school. This post unexpectedly stirred up ripples. In a small town, unlike a big city, rumors naturally spread, and it quickly became common knowledge that the council member mentioned in the newspaper was Ryan. As for me, I never considered Ryan as family, nor do I intend to associate with him in the future. While I felt relieved about the whole situation, my father-in-law Tom was furious.
That man is unfit to be a city council member. He should resign.
Tom, please calm down. I'm not bothered by it. I don't want to stoop to his level.
No. You see, I've heard around that there might be a resolution for a recommendation to resign being proposed in the city council.
I was genuinely surprised by this news. It's possible that a city council member who attended the reception might be leading this charge. But since he hasn't committed any actual misconduct as a council member, it seems a bit excessive to me. When I expressed my thoughts, Mary strongly disagreed.
You've always been holding back, haven't you? But there are times when you need to stand up for yourself.
If you had the opportunity for further education, you would have taken it, right? That's what council members should consider. She had a point. I'm not fond of what-ifs. So, I don't use them often, but if I had gone to high school and then to college, my life would have been entirely different. Yet, living my life up to this point, I don't have many regrets or resentments. I think that's because I've been fortunate with the people around me. Joining John's construction, being trained by my seniors as a carpenter, and being recognized by Tom. Meeting Mary wouldn't have been possible if I had gone to high school and college. Sure, if I had married someone else, I might have been happy in a different way, but honestly, I can't imagine being with anyone but Mary. Even if I were to be born again, I'd still want to marry Mary. But there are still young boys and girls out there struggling because they didn't finish school. I do think about extending more help to those who had to work right after middle school. I believe that's one way to improve society, and changing society for the better is what being a council member is all about. In that sense, it's not unreasonable to say that Ryan is unfit for his city council position. Emma, now living as Bob's wife, has completely cut ties with Ryan. I heard that she blocks all his calls and never lets him into their new apartment, even if he comes over. Apparently, a conversation like this happened through the apartment door.
I am Bob's wife and your sister-in-law. That makes me part of the family. And your actions bring shame to us.
Please don't say that. I'm sorry, and I want your forgiveness.
Still, Emma never opened the door. Ryan's words, a middle school dropout is a disgrace to the family, deeply affected all the relatives. Everyone started to feel ashamed of being related to Ryan.
I can't stand being associated with a man like that in the family tree.
That man is the real disgrace to our family. Isn't he cut off by his own daughter? I want to disown him too.
And so Ryan became isolated. After losing his wife early, Ryan's only family, the relatives, also cut ties with him. Watching Emma grow up was his greatest joy, and frankly, his reason for living. Now no one seems to care about Ryan anymore. He was just universally disliked. More misfortune struck Ryan as he became increasingly isolated. A resolution recommending his resignation was introduced in the city council. It wasn't because of his disdain for me being a high school dropout, but due to various wrongdoings he had committed becoming public. When his actions during his nearly 2 decades as a council member were scrutinized, a series of misdeeds came to light. Improper receipt of official funds, facilitating fraudulent admissions for a company president's son, falsifying invoices for computers, and more. It was surprising how much came out. Indeed, the catalyst was that remark at Bob's wedding reception. Ryan, who had been so assertive before, lost all his energy after being disowned by Emma, and didn't show any will to fight back. Thus, Ryan resigned from the city council and began a life of seclusion at home. Loved by no one, not even receiving sympathy, he had to resign from various important positions in sports organizations and volunteer groups. Now at home, there's nothing left for him to do. Alone in a house too quiet, with no visitors, I wonder what he thinks about in his solitary life. The city development project, led by our company John's Construction, has been progressing for 5 years and is nearing its goal. The city center has transformed significantly. The narrow sidewalks have been widened and separate bike lanes were added, significantly reducing accidents between pedestrians and cyclists. A lush green park where kids can play safely is almost complete. I plan to take Mary and our 4-year-old son, Tyler, to the park. Seeing the colorful playground equipment, Tyler is extremely excited. However, since it's not yet officially open, I can't let him play to his heart's content.
Play. That area is still off limits. Let's play in the sandbox.
Tyler makes a dissatisfied face. Usually he loves playing in the sand, but it seems the new playground equipment is more appealing to him.
When can I play there?
I gently tap Tyler's head.
You'll be able to play there by the time you're a big brother, just a little longer.
Saying this, I gently rub Mary's belly, who is standing next to me. She is now 7 months pregnant. I secretly hope for a girl this time, but Tyler seems to want a little brother.
Why do you want a brother? A sister can be cute too, you know?
To play adventure games together.
I see. Playing adventure games with siblings sounds fun.
We asked not to be told the baby's gender. No matter if it's a boy or a girl, the child will be a cherished being. Even Tyler, who now wants a brother, will surely adore a little sister if that's what we have. But I know the value of having siblings. If he gets a brother, it'll probably be like my relationship with Bob, a close and irreplaceable bond. We meet with Bob and Emma once a week and have a great time. Their first child is also due soon. It's going to be a lively household for sure. I'm really looking forward to it.